mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episode 5 of Apple TV's Sugar, entitled The Boy in the Corner. Actually, there's no "the" in it, it's just Boy in the Corner. This episode establishes the title in one of the first scenes, when we see David repeatedly doing the same take for a movie called Man in the Corner. As soon as I saw the name of the film, I immediately knew Boy in the Corner was a clue that this episode was going to focus on Davey. And it did. But this episode revealed a lot of additional information as well. I continue to truly anticipate and enjoy watching this show. Colin Farrell's performance is subtle, but it impresses me more and more each week. This might be one of my favorite characters of his. It's not a big showy one like his character in Banshees of Inisherin, you know, or something like The Penguin, where it's like, oh, I didn't even recognize that was Colin Farrell. It's so subtle, but he does so much. Like, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but what he does with this character is really impressive to me. We also learned a lot this week, and not just information regarding Olivia's disappearance, but information that continues to raise more questions about John's true nature and what the fuck is going on. Then to top it all off, we end on our cliffhanger that feels like we're finally going to get that last puzzle piece that we've been waiting for next week. And I'm really excited to get that too. So let's get into talking about what we learned this week. And I'm going to start with Davey, since he's the meaning of the episode title. And obviously because he meets his end at the end of the episode. So we open the episode seeing Davey needing to reshoot the same scene 876 times. And then asking for his female co-star in the scene, asking for her contact info, which seems a lot less harmless given what we currently know about him. Like, just like on its face, it's like, he just asked for her contact info. But knowing what we know, it's like, boy, here Davey goes again. But we follow that, we follow that by then seeing him whine about people not being able to see his remarkable performance in this movie because of his tendency to sexually blackmail people. And we see his mother coddling him like a baby. Again, feeding into the title of Boy in the Corner here. And I also want to note, I've been calling her Skylar or Davey's mother. Her name is spelled Margit. And I just cannot, I just did not feel like embarrassing myself by pronouncing that incorrectly. So I decided, so that's why I've been calling her Davey's mom or whatever. But I looked it up. It's an Italian name that's pronounced Margit, so I'm just going to call her that from now on. If that's not how the name is pronounced in the show, then my suggestion would be to name the fucking character, because the only reason I see it is because it's in the captions and on IMDb. I don't think anyone has said her name on this show. I could be wrong, of course, but if they have, they ain't said it enough, trust me. So later in this episode, she even gives him a nice little hair mussing too, just to let us know he's a good little boy, he's a good sport. She also makes sure to refer to him as David and to have him referred to as David, not Davey, because you're not gonna make mommy's big boy sound like a child by calling him Davey. Who would do that? But yeah, like I said, there's a lot at the top of the episode to let us know that kind of informs on the boy piece of that title. Anyway, she blows his head up about his greatness and his worth and his value, culminating in a fairly strange repetition of the phrase "fuck this town" that went on so long that I began to wonder if she was actually recommending that he literally try to fuck everyone in town. She's like, no, listen, fuck this town. Fuck this town. And I'm just like, I don't know, what is she saying at this point? Anyway, John, he wants to talk to Davey, and after a pair of scenes in which he questions both Bernie and Margit simultaneously about Davey's whereabouts, which I'm going to talk about that scene a little bit later, briefly, but I will. Davey reveals himself, not in that way. He reveals himself as he was hiding in the kitchen to John, and we finally learn not only about Davey and who he is and what he's done, but also what has likely happened to Olivia as well. So Davey talks about how as a famous kid, there was always women around. I mean, the guy's got a big shot father, a big shot grandfather. Of course, there's going to be celebrities around. And he talks about, as a kid growing up, there was always women around. I didn't know how to behave normally around them, and I still don't. These next words are Davey's, not mine, but per Davey. He didn't say these. I'm not going verbatim, but I'm giving you what Davey believes to be the case. Not what I think is the case, but what Davey believes to be the case. So per Davey, this inability to be normal around women because of his fame caused him to essentially seek out Stallings. Stallings who provides him with trafficked women, sexually trafficking. He's a sex trafficker. That's what he is. Davey swears that he's never seen them mistreated, which is probably true. He probably has never seen them mistreated, probably because he's never gone with Stallings to Tijuana to retrieve them, and he's never seen what we saw, which was mistreatment of these women. So he's probably telling the truth. Like, if you hooked him up to a lie detector test, he's like, Davey, have you ever seen Stallings mistreat these sex trafficked women? He'd say no, and he'd probably pass because he hasn't seen it. But it has assuredly it has happened. He then says that he must have told Stallings about Olivia, and John's like, what the fuck did you just say? Like, what did you mean you must have told him about Olivia? What did you say? And Davey tells him that Olivia told that one, he's like, oh, she told that one girl not to settle, which that one girl I'm assuming is Taylor, the girl we met last week, and that she being Olivia, threatened to tell the press about all of his indiscretions in advance of his movie being released. He's like, I only thought Stallings was going to scare her. John tells him that he was supposed to protect his sister. And in this moment, I literally wrote down in my notes how authentically remorseful Davey seemed to be in this moment. Like, it didn't feel like crocodile tears or anything. Like, it felt like for real guilt. And I remember writing that Davey seems very genuinely remorseful was the word that I used. Words that I used in my notes while I was watching this episode. So it should come as no surprise that near the end of the episode, after saying fuck this town into a mirror, the boy in the corner takes his life. And I'm interested to see the fallout from this. Like, how is Davey's mother gonna take it, given how much she was with him at the end and how much she said to him and may have said things that have encouraged him to do this? How, if at all, is Bernie's reaction going to contrast with Margit's? Will they have differences in response that are similar to how they differed in response to John asking them about Davey? And speaking of John, is he going to feel any guilt over this? Like, the last thing he said to him was like, yo, you should feel like a real piece of shit for not protecting your sister. So, I mean, just some questions to ponder in advance of next week. And now I finally want to talk about John because he has a very interesting episode too. He seems to be unraveling to me, and I think the show is doing a great job of conveying this with how they edit various scenes together. Like, it feels like John's memories are muddled with one another. And again, I don't know if that's the case, but a lack of clarity regarding what exactly is going on feels very apparent with John. Like, he's just not fully, like, he's not remembering things correctly. Like, we're saying, well, he's not, it's weird to say remembering because we're seeing these things happen in the moment, but like, it almost feels like John is recalling things incorrectly. In this episode, we see him questioning both Bernie and Margit, and the two separate encounters, they kind of bleed together in this moment, in this scene. In John's, I think in John's mind, like, I don't think this was an editing choice, like, we want to hurry through a lot of information, so let's kind of bleed two interrogations together. No, I feel like John is bleeding these two things together in his mind, with moments where it seems like he's reacting to something one person said while conversing with the other. And like I said about Colin Farrell and how good he is on the show, he's so subtly great, and I feel like it's underappreciated. Like, we've slowly watched him unravel throughout the course of this season. It hasn't been like a dramatic thing. They haven't given him big scenes that are meant to showcase that he's having mental problems or whatever. Rather, it's piece by piece, bit by bit. Think back to the first episode, or it might have been the second one. Think about how kind he was. Remember that guy, Chad, the homeless guy that had the dog, Wiley? The Wiley's still with John right now. Remember how kind he was to that guy, unnecessarily going out of his way to help him? And now look at John, beating Stallings' guy nearly to death, beating the shit out of this guy. And granted, that guy deserved that beating. Like, I feel like Melody overreacted. Like, she was too hard on John for that. Like, I feel like, yeah, you gotta allow that. But this is a side of John he's been trying to restrain that I think is slowly releasing itself. I love the moment in this scene with Margit where she's telling John about how Davey felt empathy for his accuser. She's like, "Can you believe my sweet, sweet boy?" As if to say, like, are you not astounded and impressed by how remarkable my son is? And John's just like, no. And his no sounds like, it doesn't sound like, no, I'm not astounded by how remarkable your son is. It sounds like, no, I don't believe your piece of shit son when he's telling me his stories about shit. So like, no, I don't believe your sweet, sweet boy. I think he's a piece of shit who's lying. I thought that was a great scene. But that's what I mean when I say Farrell's playing the character so subtly. Like, it's 2 letters. He just said no. But I felt like that no said so much. And I thought he's done a great job, I think. Meanwhile, in stark contrast with the soft, misleading approach that Margit takes, Bernie, he's all threats and tough talk. And he's like Stallings. Like, I'll skull fuck you if you ask me about Davey again. Don't ever threaten to skull fuck me. Like, at that point, it's like, I put this on Facebook too, on the Facebook page. Like, at that point, I'm just gonna go on the offense. Like, if you threaten to skull fuck me, I'm not gonna walk away and be like, this person is a problem to be noted for later. I'm like, no, I gotta take this motherfucker off the board because he's a problem. Like, don't threaten to skull fuck me, man. Anyway, but like I said, I could be reading too much into this. Like, they could just be trying to hurry the story along by bleeding these 2 conversations together. I don't think that's the case. It just feels like a little bit more evidence that lets me know that the show is misleading us. So, what do I mean by misleading us? I think the show wants us to connect Olivia's case with whatever John's deal is and with whatever Ruby's got going on. Like, in this episode, Ruby meets with a guy named Miller, who seems to be her boss, I'm guessing. She expresses concern over John working the Olivia case. It says it could lead to John learning things that he won't be happy about, and quite frankly, learning about things that she's not happy about either. And I think the show wants us to believe that Ruby is connected to Stallings in some way. Like she's backing his sex trafficking ring, and she doesn't want John to find out about the sex trafficking ring because that's going to upset John, and she doesn't want him to find out about it because it's going to upset their business, and that they're all concerned that John is going to find out about all of their secret sex trafficking ring things and connections and all that shit. To take it a step further, John might even have an extra soft spot for this, again, from Ruby's perspective, for this particular crime, because we know that he has a sister that something happened to. We don't know what, but we know that he has a sister that something happened to, and he connects this case to his sister. But I think this is all a ruse, misdirection, all that good shit, because the show keeps hinting at something deeper as well. Hey everybody, I just want to take a small break from this review to talk about the various other ways you can engage with me on other platforms. If you're so inclined, and I understand why you wouldn't, I am an acquired taste, but you can join the Patreon where you can get extra content like retro reviews, where I review old shows and movies to see if they still hold up today, Mike's Musings, where I talk about shows I'm watching that I don't cover on the channel, or Mike's VOD, where you can commission me to watch a show, which I will then review on the channel. And if you want to engage with me and chat with me more directly, I also implore you to join the Discord and follow the Facebook page. I set up channels in the Discord for all of us to discuss the shows I'm reviewing on the channel, and I also drop new videos in there, since it's the easiest platform for me to share to from my phone. The Facebook can be really fun because I sort of live comment on shows I'm watching, often while under the influence, I'm not going to lie. And I'll also share news there, both about television and film, and about myself as well. So if you like my content, you want to be more engaged, you think I'm charming, or you simply want to show support, feel free to sign up for the Patreon or join the Discord or Facebook today. Links to all platforms are in every video description. Remember to share all my shit to your respective social media platforms. And now back to this review. In this same conversation with Miller, Ruby says she disapproves of these new methods. And Miller's like, we're just observing as always. And Ruby is like, no, this is new. And she's like, these people. And you can interpret that as these people who we work with, who are doing these new methods that I don't approve of, like what Stallings is doing with our sex trafficking ring. You could look at it that way, and I think that's what the show wants you to look at it as. Or you could see her as the show kind of painting her, see her as the person that the show has painted her as this whole time, as a third-party observer who is a separate entity from the people that she's observing. These people being an entirely different life form that is difficult to predict and difficult to control. And yeah, I get it. It feels like I got the tin hat on. I got the strap under the chair so that motherfucker don't fall off. I'm telling you guys, I feel like the evidence to support the fucking alien theory is on the goddamn screen. I'm not saying it's accurate. That's what it is. I'm not saying, I'm telling you guys, I think these motherfuckers are aliens. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's enough support on the screen to not be able to dismiss it. So at the end of the episode, John's writing in his journal that's supposed to be objective observations, and he says that he's not the kind of person to beat the shit out of Stallings' guy like he did, but also that he's not sure that he's not that kind of person. Then he says, maybe I've been here too long. And I mean, come on, y'all. Like, maybe I've been on this planet for too long, and I'm acting like a savage, just like they are. I mean, that's gotta be it, right? Like, that kind man who helped Chad at the beginning of the season is now beating people nearly to death, and I'm not supposed to believe you're trying to tell me that humanity's shitty nature has corrupted this kind alien? I mean, come on, guys, it's right there on the screen, for Christ's sakes. Like I'm telling you, man, they're telling us that the humans have corrupted him as a kind alien. For fuck's sake, the last 3 episodes are called Go Home, The Friends You Keep, and Farewell. I'm not saying those titles sound like John is going back to his home planet, but they don't not sound like that either. Speaking of the scene where John beats the shit out of Stallings' henchman, I loved how Melanie was trying to like bluff about him being on the way when he was actually there, just unbeknownst to him. I thought that was a really cool scene. And then I thought like, oh, he's gonna show up coincidental, like from her perspective, it's gonna be a coincidence that he shows up, and it's gonna make her look like she's telling the truth. But then he actually leaves, and I'm like, oh shit. But then they called back to how he noticed the black trucks in, what was her name, Teresa's neighborhood, and then he notices them there in Melanie's, and that's how he ends up back in there. And I love that moment, that nice little callback. We end the episode with a mini cliffhanger that sounds like John is about to share his secret that he's Bing Bong from Planet Whoop-De-Whoop. He's about to share that secret with Melody. I'm telling you guys, I really dig this show. I really do. I'm so excited for these last 3 episodes, but I will say this. We do need to learn John's deal next week. Like, this can't be dragged out to the end because learning John's deal isn't important to me. Learning how it impacts the rest of the story is what's important to me. So if John's an alien, we need these final 3 episodes to kind of recontextualize what we've seen and then see how this revelation, what the fuck? I mixed revelation with realization. Revelation, how this revelation impacts the case. I don't want to go through the whole case and then end the show with John getting on a spaceship. Like, oh shit, he was an alien. I don't want to see that. I want to see some fallout. Speaking of which, on that note, let me know what you guys thought in the comments. I will have a video coming soon for Amazon Prime's Fallout, which I recently finished watching. So until next week for episode 6 of Sugar, peace.